going to be a bumpy night.
What's going on, everybody? This is the Laugh Bunker podcast. My name is Josh. Paul, great to see you. How's everything going?
Everything's good, man. I moved into my new office, as you can see. It's I got it because of COVID. I got it for 19 mil. And so it was it's
a deal.
phenomenal. It's a deal of a lifetime.
Yeah.
It is. No one will come to work, which is weird, but I have no work anyway. So it does look great.
Yeah.
No, everything's been very good. Training hard for some climbs coming up, and just really enjoying life, man. I mean, having a good time, and I have no complaints at all. Everybody's healthy here. Family's good. They're transitioning into online teaching, which your wife is, and now my daughter's having to go to school and tutor online, and so they own the Wi-Fi. And they're pretty stingy about it sometimes, and they charge me extra, which is kind of weird because I pay the bills. But anyway, so they lean on me for the interest on my loan. But everything's good.
Same thing, man. Same thing. My wife's classes are being pushed onto online for even the spring as of right now. So I told her expect that
spring too.
Even spring. At least for now, they're letting everybody know, expect it to be in spring, unless something else changes, unless we get something going. But most likely, it's going to be in spring. I was even setting up today. I was setting up, possibly even taking some classes for the fall, get stuff going. Finally, they're backlogged, so they took forever to get back to me and give me my information to get on.
So you
logged up
and take those classes. Excellent,
yes,
excellent,
and get that started.
No, it's once you get going, just keep it going and don't stop. And for what you're doing and what you want, online teaching is fine. It works perfect because you're showing examples of your work. You don't have to drive there.
I don't have to pay for parking. I don't have to fight for parking. I don't have to spend time away from home. I can just do it all here, get it all done, and it's. I'm hoping to get that started. I already logged in and set everything up today, so I think the registration is coming up soon. And this is me just going back to school and trying to hopefully set myself on the right path for a different career or open things up in the digital media kind of space. So that's what I'm hoping to do. So,
well, it is the future.
Yeah.
And you can have work, and you can work from anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially now with the way the digital information and the way that you can work on projects even collectively. I think it is the future. I want you almost have to wonder: are we going to move into this era of online? I mean, are we going to go ahead, and are some of these schools going to be actually coming back, or will they find that the cost effectiveness of keeping it online? I know my daughter is going to be online, but she has received quite a bit of money back from the university due to no dorms. Well, she wasn't going to live in the dorm anyway, but due to just different aspects that are no longer available. Yeah. So, and it's going to be.
It's gonna be hard for the universities and the schools, and I think eventually they'll go back once things are ease up and tension, the restrictions and the COVID is kind of the problem's been solved in some way, I guess, with the vaccine or whatever. But I think people need schools to open back up. I think schools are going to come with maybe incorporate more hybrid courses into the curriculum. I think for the university level and regular, just grade school. And as far as a corporate level, I think a lot of companies are going to really evaluate from here on out how much business travel is really costing them. What they could really just get done online.
Well, you're
even
correct.
TV and media. I mean, animation this is probably the perfect time for animation to get going and start producing content, and just online self studios and all that, like Tyler Perry's place. They're doing what they can and getting stuff done, but it's expensive.
Well, I mean, they're going to come to a point where there isn't going to be any new media. if
Yeah.
they're not shooting it. And it's gonna, and you're wondering about, you've heard about the whole snafu with the Mulan and charging extra. They're gonna do it as a write-off.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's
and
$29.99. They're putting it up on Disney Plus, and they were going to release it, I think, this fall, but it's just they see that it's just not going to happen. So
well, and
charge
what's gonna
double.
be here, you know?
Yeah,
And it's interesting because we were talking about the online teaching,
yeah,
and I wonder how detrimental that's going to be, let's say, for people in kindergarten,
yeah.
first grade, second grade, when you don't have an attention span at anything.
Oh,
And
and
even
not to
then, you
not to
have to
mention
be,
the kind of household you live in. I mean, some of these people live in these kids live in chaotic households, and there's
well, you
no
know, where you can see
opportunity
where
for
I'm
learning.
living, I have no problems. And I'm
Yeah,
renting out space, by the
yeah,
way, a
yeah,
square foot for every kid. And no, I mean, as we can tell from my conversation, I don't have an attention span. So therefore, for me to be, unless I'm totally OCD about the
yeah,
baseboards, but other than that, I don't know. It wouldn't have worked. And I'm not. I'm a hands-on learner. I
yeah,
like to ask questions. Once I get a concept, I can build off it. But now my daughter, she is totally grown up online, and yet for her to teach and do school, it's so much easier as a young person.
yeah,
But I just wonder, yeah, where does it stop? And we all know that the buck stops here.
yeah,
And so you're wondering because of finance, and you're right about the Zoom meetings. My sister, who runs an organization that helps the elderly, she said, "Why am I going to pay people to travel?" She
yeah,
goes, we can do everything online, and it's not like old time sales
yeah,
where people traveled. And of course, without all that business travel, sports travel, school travel,
hmm
it totally affects our industry probably over anybody.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
I mean, hospitality, and not just lodging, obviously,
yeah,
restaurants, rental cars, and so forth. I mean, we rented a car to Yosemite. I mean, we got it for nothing. I mean,
yeah.
it's just like, it was like, you can't believe it. It's cheaper than the gas. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And with
So,
sports the way they are, with no fans, tourism is just an all-time low right now. There's nothing open. There's nothing to do. Yeah, our industry is going to be affected big time for at least the foreseeable next year. I think it's going to take
well,
a while for it to
even
bounce
when
back.
we went and stayed at in Yosemite,
Yeah.
at right outside the gate in El Porto, at the mountain, or at the Yosemite Mountain Lodge, uh,
Hmm.
they were like running 25, 30%. And this is Yosemite. I mean, you can't even get a room normally
Yeah.
at this place.
Yeah.
And now you said that you were thinking about going to Zion.
I am. It's already pretty much confirmed. I think we're staying just right outside the park,
Yeah, we
and
stayed, my daughter and I, we stayed at a place and it had a zoo.
it's called the place we're staying at is the Majestic Lodge. I think it's something like that. I think that's what it's called. I gotta double check on that. But yeah, going for a weekend. Just check it out. I haven't been to Utah since I was a kid. We went a few times. We traveled a lot. Did a lot of little road trips here and there, just in nearby states. But Utah was. I remember Utah quite a bit, and I haven't been there since. So and I've never been to Zion. So
Well,
I'm curious to see how that goes.
incredible.
Yeah.
Been to
Yeah.
Zion a couple times.
Yeah.
We always stop in Vegas for breakfast.
Yeah.
Always stop at Circus because you can park there for free. Walk across the street to
Yeah.
Denny's, have breakfast. It's about 2 hours up the road. I haven't been to tons of national parks. Most of my climbing and hiking are in national forests or mountains,
Yeah.
whatever. But I was as impressed. I mean, Yosemite 2 weeks ago blew my mind on a level that I'll never. It just, I couldn't believe it. For you to
Yeah.
go to Zion at this time, there was nobody in Yosemite when we were there, as we discussed last week. But when you roll up the road, you're like, oh yeah, cool, whatever, and you don't really see it. And then once you get in, now one thing you're going to have to check is, are
Yeah.
they having shuttle services?
I could double check that. Yeah,
No,
I don't
check
know.
it out because here's the problem. You can't drive in the park. And
Okay.
and so like for Yosemite, they had
Uh-huh.
no buses, no shuttle services at all, and that's a pretty big park. With Zion, to get to the cool areas, you had to get on a shuttle. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I would
Now,
check
now
that out.
without the shuttles, how would you make your way in? Is there
You're
you're
gonna have
gonna
to
just having to
walk.
go by? Could you park nearby and then walk in?
I don't
Or
know. Now Yosemite, has parking spaces with Zion
yeah,
because like you, we stayed at literally, we stayed 1/4 mile from the gate, and
yeah,
even when you go in, it doesn't look spectacular till you make this bend, and then you're like, holy cow!
yeah.
But I'm sure there are climbers climbing there, and but I don't know if they have located spots. To me, Zion seemed to be. It was all about the shuttle, and you
Okay.
got off the shuttle and then you walked or whatever. And I took
Yeah,
we were there for just 2 days. Something to
yeah.
check though, but a spectacular park. Um,
Now we're going with the family. I don't know how family friendly it is, or if there's a lot. Is it easy to get around when you have a 1.5-year-old with you? I really don't know.
there isn't anything easy with the one
Yeah.
and a half year old.
Yeah.
Even in your
I'm
own
not looking for
house,
the I'm not
you
looking
can't
for the
make it
6 hour
from room to
drives.
room. It's
Yeah,
a disaster waiting to happen.
it's true.
So that yeah, but you know what?
And the
I'll tell
six
you
hour
what.
drive, it's like I don't know how I'm gonna do the 6 hour drive with him in the car. It's just yeah, I don't know.
Well, and I lived through that, and it's not just him. It's the equipment that you need to shuttle him.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
playpen, it's the bed, it's the carrier, it's the stroller.
Hmm.
So, but it is national parks are pretty friendly for kids. He's not going to remember it, but it'll be a great time. You're going to trip out on it.
Yeah.
It's very awesome, and it's interesting because when we climbed and hiked earlier in our lives, my wife and I, and then climbing with my friends, we were
Yeah.
coming from Chicago. So if we drove, we left after work on Friday, drove 14 hours, and was there in Denver or Boulder, wherever we were meeting our friends.
Yeah.
And in Colorado, it's like when you get on 70 that takes you across the state, the mountains are close. Like it's like chiseled out of the mountains. But when you're in Utah, the mountains are all in the distance.
Uh-huh.
And not because I've driven, but it's like there's an expanse of the landscape that creates a very different feel from both sides. And then once you cross in it and start getting into Glenwood Springs in Colorado, it's uptight again.
Yeah.
Um, Utah is a pretty killer place. I would think Zion is going to be pretty hot when you're there, though, this time of year.
Yeah, we're going late August, 20 around, the last week or so. So we'll see how it is. Yeah, I haven't been to Utah since I was a kid, so it's going to be interesting to go back as an adult with the child now, and it's going to be pretty fun. We
It'll
haven't
be
done it.
interesting what you remember if you go
Yeah,
to some of the same places, but
yeah,
um, we drove through out there probably 4 or 5 times when my daughter was going to school in Denver,
uh-huh.
and just blown away by the whatever
Some of the
and
stuff you've
how
seen.
big
Yeah.
it is, and um,
How are the community? Because I don't remember the communities too much. Some of like the Salt Lake and some of like the towns and cities. I'm not sure. Just by
I've
memory, I don't
only
remember
saw
too
like
much.
one time on a climbing trip driving through, and then
Uh-huh.
having to take a bus back to Chicago, or we took the
Yeah.
train because our vehicle broke down in Ely, Nevada. And
Yeah.
in fact, it wasn't from Salt Lake City; it was Provo, Utah, is where I was at.
Yeah.
And no, it seems like a nice place, and it's gorgeous and less people. But to
Yeah.
go to national parks right now, in fact, I was telling a gentleman, the night auditor at work, about my experience at Yosemite, and he already booked for Grand Canyon because he said if there's not
Yeah.
going to be people, he said when I like I for me, I don't like to hike with people, and as much as my time alone,
Yeah.
and it was to not see people. And I know I keep going on, and I wrote another article about story
Yeah.
of Yosemite, but it was it's just breathtaking. In fact, we tried right away to get in, and already what they do is they release the day passes 1 month in advance. So right now, my wife logged in at 6:59 on August 1st.
Uh-huh.
Gone.
By 7, it was all gone?
All gone. So, but there's some ways you can get in, get a wilderness permit. I'd like to go back one more time because I'd like to hike the Half Dome.
And what do you have coming up? What hikes do you have coming? Do you have anything like big?
Well, I got a
planned?
permit for. We got a permit for Mount Wilmington.
Okay.
And Mount Wilmington is the second highest 14,000 foot mountain in the Sierras. It's about 20, 30 miles north of Mount Whitney, which is the tallest. But Wilmington is 26 miles round trip, but it's 10,000 feet elevation gain. So you gain 10,000 feet in 13 miles.
Wow.
So, and it's not really marked. There's not a lot of people. So I did get it. That's for September 27th when you're going to be in Zion, in fact.
Yeah.
And so training hard. I put Moses on the permit, and I also put Rudy if he wants to come.
Yeah.
But I got it, with Moses, I'm going to see him tomorrow. We're going to hike. I'm going to say, you have to really be ready for this. Like, you have to hike at least once a week.
Yeah.
I put together 2 days a week. I call them expedition days. So I do about 5-6 hours hiking a day, and then wait 3 hours, and then I lift weights for about an hour and a half because the body keeps it going. So anyway, I am going to go up there, and then I'm going to we're going to knock off there's a thing called the 6-pack, which is the top 6 peaks in Southern California. So probably in October, the last one will be in Palm Springs. Which is Giorgio, San Jacinto. I can't even pronounce it, but it starts, that's called Cactus to Clouds. That's also a 10,000 foot elevation gain, but it starts at the Museum of History in Palm Springs. And I've never been to Palm Springs. Have you been there?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know if we chatted about it
like
before. It's got I love it. It's got this old, it's a desert town, but it's got this really classic. A lot of old Hollywood, live there. A lot of
Well, Bob Hope, I know, has that massive $50 million mansion, and he was a big part of owning the land and also helping to develop it. Yeah,
it's got about it like a lot of houses, a lot of the big houses, a lot of the it's got this retro type of Hollywood feel to it. So it's I love Palm Springs. When I think of Palm Springs, I don't think of hiking so much, but I think of sipping on some drinks and hanging out by the pool type of stuff. It's like that kind of loungy, couple of days, vacation, just to relax.
I don't know what that is. What you said? Relax?
Yeah, relax.
What does that mean?
Not in your vocabulary, yeah.
No, I'm not familiar with that. Yeah.
I love Palm Springs. Palm Springs is great. Yeah.
But anyway, so we're going to check it out, and so that'll be what we're going. And
what have you been watching?
Okay, well,
anything new?
It's funny, I know we're going to talk about biographical movies and documentaries in a few minutes, but I just went back to this documentary about the Dawn Wall, about Tommy Caldwell. I've mentioned it a few times. I'm going to put it on my list again. Having stood there and now watching the documentary, and his story is stinking incredible. I mean, they were captured. I mean, he's somewhat maybe you could say on the spectrum maybe. And his dad was a bodybuilder and mountain climber from Estes Park, Colorado. And I mean, just like steroids, the big dude. So he knew his son. He thought the best thing I could teach my son is resilience. So at 6 years old, this guy's climbing. Crazy stuff. I heard about him in the 90s when we were climbing, and he was the first one to get this 515, which is a rating of difficulty. He married a girl young. Friend, they climbed all over. They went to Afghanistan or Pakistan, and were captured by the Taliban.
Wow.
and had to kill a person to escape,
Yeah.
push them off the mountain, and they escaped. And then with all the production and the introspection and they were on every media. I mean, it was it.
Yeah.
And their marriage broke apart. After that, then he started doing the Dawn Wall, which was the hardest climb on Yosemite. And so because of it, it makes a lot. It just stands out having been there. I went back and watched Social Network, even though we discussed Fincher. It's been on my rotation. I
It's
eat
such a good
lunch
movie.
with it.
Yeah,
And
of course, yeah.
and then who doesn't want to fall back into Narcos? I can't.
Funny enough, I watched like three. I restarted Narcos Mexico last night. The first season of that, so it's only been two, but I restarted it again last night.
Well,
I watched like 3 episodes.
It's funny because I just watched the episode literally yesterday in the Cali, the third season of the Colombian version.
Yeah.
And they introduced Amato, who was the jet guy, who I think is the coolest, or
the coolest person on the Mexico.
Well, and eternally as an actor, he's a movie star because you're just drawn to him. But I love when the Cali comes down, Pacho, and they discuss the whatever the terms of their deal. So that other than that, Monday through Friday. My work days are Monday through Thursday. I don't watch any TV or anything.
Yeah.
I put all my time. I work out. I get my writing done. Unless it's for food, I don't.
Time is precious during those days for you.
It is, and I'm busy. And I stay to it. Weekends I watch a lot if I can get caught up. And so, what do you got for me? What are you watching?
You know what? This weekend I've caught up on a bunch of films I haven't seen yet. I don't know. I just made it a point to kind of I'm gonna watch a bunch of films this weekend. I don't know, just get caught up on them. So I watched. I did see Ford versus Ferrari. I think we talked about that on the last podcast. I'm not sure if we talked about that one.
Yeah.
I saw Ad Astra with Brad Pitt. That was okay. Not a lot of action, but some cool scenes and. His relationship with Tommy Lee Jones, who's his dad, and he's out in space, and he's got to go find him and all that stuff. It was fine. It wasn't no Interstellar. I think they were going for like this kind of like slow, drawn out, more mental kind of Interstellar.
It's a little.
It was okay. It was a little preachy. It was okay. I had like some cool scenes in it, but it was all right.
And I gotta tell you, I'm kind of spaced out. I mean, I'm literally spaced out, but. I just, it's funny because when we talk about biographical films, or I am really into. I grew up with space.
Yeah.
So, and I was fascinated by it.
2001.
No, I mean I grew up with Apollo.
Yeah.
I grew up with watching it. My parents were really into. America was really into it. It was a lot different. I mean, we knew all the astronauts. We played astronauts. When we weren't killing cowboys as Indians, but so for me to go up but then to go science fiction, and even to have like really one of my best friends, he was a rocket scientist for Lockheed Martin. He did the Mars Surveyor project on paper, and he was a roofer with me in Chicago. It was quite a jump. He was the stupidest roofer in the world, but he went on to be a genius. And then my wife's dad, he helped design the engines of the LEM to land on the moon. So conversations, space to me works more for horror, as we talked last week.
Like aliens and
because I know they're out there and they, and that's just, but to the whole space thing in future, maybe I've just been too saturated, if that's just me. So, okay, so you saw Ad Astra. What else?
Ad Astra. I saw Bohemian Rhapsody.
Excellent.
I saw Rocket Man.
Nice.
I've seen one more. It's the only ones that are coming to mind. I know I've seen another. I'm trying to think of if I've watched another one. Did I mention any others before we started recording?
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that was it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think so. There's one more in there that probably come to me, but have you seen Rocket Man or Bohemian Rhapsody?
So, okay, seen both the films.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's good because I want to
Saw
see what your
both the
take on it.
films, and obviously grew up in the era of this.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so big part of our lives. I would have to say Elton John. You know, it's funny. I love Queen, but because of this movie, it's played so much, I don't want to hear it anymore. In other words, I've
Yeah.
heard the hits. I've been inundated with it for the last 2 years because
Yeah.
of the
Because of this
film.
movie. Yeah, this film. Yeah.
And
Which came out like last year. Was it last year or the year before?
no, 2018.
Okay.
And the
Rocket
Rami
Man thing was.
Rami Malek
Yeah.
in Bohemian Rhapsody. He's from he's the voice of Vic McPhee on Horse Jackman,
Oh, is he?
and yeah, but also Mr. Robot is the show that my
That was his
wife
hit
got me
show.
hooked
Yeah.
on. I thought his performance in the film, I mean, the transformation and having lived in that era. And it's interesting because I obviously grew up in the era where sexuality was not discussed,
Yeah.
and it was not it was all about the music for us and whatever. And I thought from him to go from Mr. Robot to this role, my only thing is it spent so much time on recreating the live aid and the big
Yeah.
concert and everything. They had to keep it in because they spent so much money. I was more interested in some of the personal relationships
Yeah.
and that. So I thought great performance, but not a great fulfilling movie for me.
I I agree. I think I thought the performance is great. The relationship at times with certain people, like especially his significant other, I forgot her name, his wife.
First wife,
Yeah, his first wife. Um,
only
that
wife.
was it. That was interesting to me. Um, the relationship he had with management and the
Well,
mixing
his
of.
controlling force was more than I had thought about. In other
Yeah,
words,
yeah,
normally I thought Brian May being the guitarist.
yeah,
I wish that I thought was a nice insight was the hands on of Freddie Mercury, which I
yeah,
thought was pretty fascinating.
yeah,
And
yeah. Like he had a
so
vision and
oh
he knew what he wanted and he went for it and made sure it was done and if he had to you know assert his dominance or his authority and prove say that I'm the talent, this is what we're doing. Like it showed in this film. No, I liked it. I've seen documentaries on Freddie Mercury and Queen. It's their music is you grow up with it. I've loved Queen for the longest.
I
I think they,
remember their album came out sheer heart attack when I was in eighth grade.
and I think for a later generation, even younger than me, a lot of them were exposed to Queen through video games. I don't know if you remember uh, Guitar Hero. Do you remember the video game
Oh yeah,
Guitar
yeah,
Hero? Was
yeah.
on like
I remember that. I didn't play it, but I
Queen,
remember it.
Queen
Yeah.
was Queen was a big hit on that game because they had a couple of songs on there. So those songs became very like ingrained in kids' mind in a different generation. Um, so they've been able to keep up with the times, and a lot of their anthems are played in every
Oh,
sporting event.
I mean, yeah, I mean, every rock. I mean, We Are the
Yeah, we are the
Champions
champion.
is at every
Little
played in
Rock. Yeah,
every venue in America.
yeah.
That houses sports.
So
Um,
but the movie overall, I felt like it did the progression of the band and all the way to Live Aid. And spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't really seen it, but the last 20 minutes is basically the entire performance of Live Aid recreated, which I thought looked amazing, and it just they almost did shot for shot, and I thought it was yeah, I was surprised it lasted so long by what they were able to recreate. And his performance doing the whole thing, and it was really something. And then the movie basically ends there, and it kind of tells you what happened to him afterwards. Um, but yeah, they didn't touch on the so much of the maybe the homosexuality as much as like Rocket Man did, or at least show things. I think the whole time I was watching it I felt like the relationship between him and the band was portrayed in a positive light than I think it really went down. I think there was a lot more maybe bickering, infighting, maybe a lot more egos being pushed. The band looked very like, oh yes, whatever you want to do, Mercury, Freddie. Yeah, of course, whatever you're Freddie. We'll do whatever you want. And I think there was a lot more pushback and a lot more egos and a lot more name calling. I don't know. It just felt like they were too agreeable with him and too accommodating with him and throughout the film. And it was like they made them. I know they had a big. They had a lot of influence in how the story was told, from what I hear. So that shows in this movie, and I think with that in the back of my mind, I was just seeing that the entire time, that Brian May and like the members of the band did not want to necessarily be portrayed in a negative light so much. And I think
and that created a lack of tension that would have raised the level.
Yeah. Which I liked. Going to Rocket Man, I liked.
I think
I liked Rocket Man. Yeah, I liked the transition. Better. I liked it better. I liked Rocket Man better. I liked
more creative.
Yeah, way more creative.
You know, I love the conversations and the dreams from the drug rehab intervention programs. And the guy's a little bit. He's very magnetic as an actor, even though his only background is Kingsman movies. But I thought he did a great job.
Yeah,
and I thought it was a better movie as a whole.
Too. Yeah,
personally, my personal. But I think it didn't get the acclaim because it came out 2 years after the Bohemian.
Was around the same time, if not the same year, or like
year after.
Year after. So it kind of got overshadowed in a way. But I think it was a better movie. I
agree, and I thought his performance. It seemed more internal, whereas in the Bohemian Rhapsody, it was a perfect fitting, but I didn't see too deep past the exterior, and I felt like with this actor Egerton that. Yeah. I really felt more connected to him, and it could be I'm more connected. The music is more soulish. Elton John's music is different than Queen's. It's not anthem. It's not this. It's more internal. Yeah. And Bernie Taupin, who crafted a lot. I love that relationship in the movie. That I thought it was special, and I loved when he would send. He moved in and he would send the music, and he would be putting the words. I thought. I mean, other than Lennon and McCartney, those two guys together are right up there when it comes to performing music that sticks in your head.
And they stayed friends all the way through, and you know, and the relationship the back and forth of writer musician was just they kept it strong all the way through from the very beginning. I like that.
We wouldn't have heard of neither without either.
Without each other, yeah. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that about Elton John. That he had the writing partner that he relied on so much, and that basically helped make him who he was.
Well, the people who write this music,
I
mean, the people who own the credit of the right of the words and the song. I mean, that's where the money is, and it's interesting how even with so in Rocket Man, he is going to do a remake of Little Shop of Horrors. You're familiar with the Broadway play?
Yeah.
It was the movie with Bill Murray, Rick Moranis years ago. Well, they're doing a Broadway version of it with Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans, and I love that he's reaching. You know, I like that. I like that this guy's willing to take other risks, especially after being in Kingsman. He wanted to.
You're talking about Egerton.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
he's even expressed interest in. But honestly, kept it. I know you're not a comic book fan, but he's expressed interest in. While his fans have expressed interest in having him play a young kind of Wolverine, fill Hugh Jackman's role.
Yeah, I could
maybe
see
down the
that.
road somehow. And
Well,
he
it's
was pretty
funny, they're
honest.
both musical people. Like Hugh Jackman is really more theater
Yeah,
oriented than
you're
film.
right. You're
So
right. Yeah.
that would be a great
And he could do the action roles. He could get physically in shape. The only thing he said that I felt is kind of true too is that he's not as grisly and mannish, I guess, as like let's say Hugh Jackman. Where
yeah,
he
but look at we ran into Hugh Jackman. He probably didn't start that role till he was in his 40s. Am I correct?
yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
but
you're right.
I did see pictures of him training, and obviously he took some roids because
Yeah.
to.
Oh, yeah,
But there's
yeah,
a picture of him deadlifting almost 500 pounds.
yeah. No, if you look at Hugh Jackman in the first X-Men film and in just the last X-Men film that he did, it's night and day. It's
Hey,
like that. This
look
Hugh
at
Jackman could eat that Hugh Jackman
look
for
at
lunch.
look at Sylvester Stallone from
Still be
Rocky
hungry.
One.
Yeah.
So it does make. But yeah, so those are two great biographical films.
Yeah. And I just love.
Question for you though:
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
biographical films or documentaries? So obviously, even documentaries can be tainted by editing and opinion and the
Yeah.
background and the point you're trying to make by
Yeah.
manipulating statistic figures, whatever. Do you, when you watch something about someone you really want to know,
Yeah.
does it bother you that there might be some um,
Influences.
leniency, yeah, or
Yeah.
leniency, and that it's been adulterated a little bit, or do
I,
you like to just know the fact? Does it bother you that they might do something to keep the story moving?
no, I like when it comes to a documentary or a film. When it comes to
Yeah,
a
which
film,
one? Which one is more important for you?
in a film, I would
For
say
for autobiography or biographical material?
um, if there is an influence in some way, I usually can tell where they're leaning or where they're going to go if I know even just a little bit about the subject. If I know a bit ahead of time, I guess I'm more mentally prepared. But sometimes it could take me out of the film, like with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay.
I'm sure Elton John had a lot of influence in Rocket Man too. He was like very involved in the film. Not so much in terms of how the story was told, but he's obviously alive and was able to share a lot of the stories. Um, but I don't know. Like when it comes to a film, I just like them to at least try to get things as accurate as possible and not take too many liberties with telling the story and try to make it entertaining just for entertainment's sake. Um, I understand that a lot of films and like Rocket Man, they're going to take some liberties to change certain moments in somebody's life to progress the story a little bit more. So I understand how that's gonna happen, but I would like to, I usually would research afterwards and be like, what did they get right? What did they kind of take liberties with? So I don't know. But with documentaries, even to that too, you can. I don't normally with documentaries. I don't hear a lot of the influence is going to be. It's there. I usually can tell during the film where they're leaning or what they're focusing on. I don't know. What does it matter to you a lot?
Um, if I really want to know about someone, I read about them. I
Yeah.
mean, that's pretty basically what I'm going to do, and I'll do the research.
Yeah.
Um,
Those are my favorite type of books too to get. I
exactly.
love finding a book on somebody and just learning as much as I can from that book. You know what I mean? Or like whatever, a movie if I can. You know.
So you're talking about, so obviously documentary is going to be a little bit more fact-based,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you get a little bit more liberty with a film.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of biographical, it's interesting because you mentioned this, what you were watching, so I did some research. I mean, there's like 300 million biographical films, basically stories built off people,
Huge.
unless it's
There's a lot. There's a way more than yeah.
So I was thinking about what are mine. So I'm going to give you a list of my top 5. Okay, and I had to think about this, and there's millions.
You're watching one. You're watching one recently too, Social Network,
Yeah,
in terms
so
of a
the
biopic.
Social
That's
Network.
considered one.
The Social Network about Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook. If you haven't seen the movie or know what Facebook is, you're probably not from America, or you're definitely not from the United. Well, actually, you're not from the world, I
Yeah.
should say.
Yeah.
So, yes, I did watch it, and we did discuss Fincher. And truth is, a lot of Fincher's movies are movies that I can have in my background, and I love.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give you a list here. So, number one, and I'm not rating these. I'm going to tell you what is my favorite. I'm just going to give you a list real quick.
Yeah.
Number one would be Schindler's List by Steven Spielberg, about Oscar Schindler, 1993, 7 Oscars, Liam Nelson's, Ray Fiennes. It's shot well.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. I mean, when you deal with any type of issue, whether it's the Holocaust or slavery, the human pain, just you're connected. That's number one, or that's my. Then I'm going to go the opposite end. I'm going to go with Goodfellas, 1990 by Martin Scorsese. It's based off the story of Henry Hill, who worked with the New York mob, helped take down a big portion of them when he turned state witness and went into the witness protection. I mean, it's by Scorsese. It's Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro. Pesci got the Oscar. Now here's and this is one of my favorites. Lady Sings the Blues.
Okay.
It's 1972. It's by Sidney Furet, who also did The Jazz Singer, which is the Roy Scheider movie about Bob Fosse. That's got Diana Ross, Billy D. Williams, Richard Pryor, and it talks about it's about the life of the famous jazz singer Billie Holiday. And growing up in Detroit, Motown was playing in my house all the time. And Diana Ross, I think, is one of the superstars of the world.
Yeah.
She's one of the few people that have 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. One is the Supremes, and one is herself.
For herself, yeah.
In fact, from 1967 to 1970, the Supremes had more #1 hits than the Beatles. Enough said. And then I'm going to jump way back. 1960, the Spartacus. Spartacus is from Stanley Kubrick. Full Metal Jacket, The Shining with Jack Nicholson that we talked about. Spartacus, Michael Douglas's dad for you old people. And now you don't even remember Michael Douglas anymore. Kirk Douglas was one of your big. He's still alive, or he just passed away.
Just died.
Yeah,
he just died.
Years old.
Yeah,
and,
about a month or 2 ago.
Spartacus is a film about a Roman slave who was captured, was a gladiator, and had a huge rebellion. It was so huge. It's the second largest crucifixion in the history of the world.
Wow.
From Naples all the way to Rome, they crucified. Now, how many hundreds of miles was that?
That's
all the way. They put up the slaves.
Yeah.
On a side note, the largest crucifixion was in Japan in the late 1600s. Right before they closed down the country for 200 years, all the samurai were becoming Christian due to the Portuguese and Spanish missionaries, and they wouldn't die for the emperor anymore. So they gave them a choice: you either serve the emperor or you serve Jesus. And so there was a massive crucifixion. And my last film, there's so many. I'm going to give you 5.
There's so many. There's way too many.
I'll write down more, but
when I brought this topic up, I didn't even think.
No, it's
how many movies are considered either autobiographical biopics that have to deal with a specific person that at one point was, or an event.
Film is based off, the hero's journey, pretty much, and the obstacles. My last pick right now is a movie from 2014, and it's Selma.
Great one, yeah.
By Ava DuVernay, the director. And why I picked this film was that when we talk about, Oscar Schindler or Henry Hill or Spartacus or, Bohemian Rhapsody or Elton John, Freddie Mercury, These are iconic things,
Yeah.
people. But when you're talking about Martin Luther King, you're talking about on a different level iconic. You're talking about on I don't want to say on the level of Jesus, but it's so revered. And what I liked about this film was there was a scene with him and his wife, and they're in the kitchen, and he's washing the dishes, and he doesn't know
Hmm.
where the dishes are go. And there's this conversation between husband and wife
Yeah.
that was so human and so real. Maybe because I lived it, or we all have had these conversations with our wives, and
Yeah.
also to laugh in the jail and have this brevity of moment where it breaks away the humanity.
Yeah.
Whoever's idea was it, whether it was David Aiolo's or the director Avas, it was brilliant. And I really thought, and I do love the movie The Passion of Christ from Mel Gibson, though it was very hard to watch because of the brutal torture and different
Yeah.
things. But even and when you're dealing with Jesus, I saw the Mary Magdalene, the movie with Joaquin Phoenix that was on
Hmm.
HBO and with Rooney. There was some moments there that were so powerful. But
Yeah.
when you're dealing with such an iconic figure, and there's not much liberty you can do, then it has to be internal. So Selma would be my the portrayal of Martin Luther King. I wanted to be with him.
Yeah.
And I found the way he created the community of who he was with, and obviously what he stood for is huge and great. But that humanity to bring that in, to be real and not a caricature or a throw in, I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in the 60s and 70s, you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
familiar with this personality, whereas, whether Jesus or Spartacus or different things don't stick out to me.
Yeah.
So I would say right now that has, and it's on my, I call it my Rolodex. My cable provider provides these movies every month for free, Spectrum,
Hmm.
and so it's on my roll. So it's a movie that I will put on. I think it's a spectacular documentary. So other
Yeah.
than Rocket Man and A Bohemian Rhapsody, what's another biographical film that you have? I mean, what sticks out for you?
Dude, when I was looking into this, it was like there's so many. It was hard to choose from. There's so many films. Off the top, Catch Me If You Can with
Okay,
Leonardo
yeah,
DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. Well, I love that
Spielberg,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, based off what's his name? What's the guy's name that they based the movie
I
off of?
can't think of his name,
Yeah,
but
I can't think of his name. Real
but
life person.
yeah,
I love that movie.
well, you know what's
Um,
funny? On a side note, on the set,
yeah,
they said that the real person, and I can't think of his name. I can never think of anything when we talk. If we're outside this stupid thing, I can
yeah,
think of everything. But
yeah,
Spielberg said that it worked him on set because everybody wanted to hang out with this guy. So the
yeah,
whole time, every time he was on set, Hanks and DiCaprio, they're just like asking him. They're just enamored
yeah,
by this guy, and Spielberg's like, "Hey, we got to run. We got to keep going. We got to go. Got a good set here."
yeah.
Great movie. Also, who's in that movie is Rachel McAdams in one of her earlier roles,
Yeah,
and
Rachel
she's
McAdams.
spectacular.
She plays one of the nurses. Jennifer Garner's in it. Christopher Walken. It's got a great cast, a lot of good cameos, a lot of people that there was some of their first big major roles in that film, and
Is Amy Adams in that movie too?
she's in that movie. She's
Yeah, she's the flight attendant, right?
she's I think a nurse.
Which one's
He
Rachel
ends up, he
McAdams?
ends up oh no, Amy Adams, yes, yes, yes. Amy Adams is that one. Rachel McAdams, is she in that one?
Yeah,
She the flight attendant?
I think so. Yeah.
I know Amy Adams is. He marries Amy Adams, and then he has the FBI's on him, so he has to leave his own wedding reception through the
Hmm.
window, and then so yeah. Frost Nixon. I don't know. I really like that movie. I was looking at it.
Well, yeah, great British actors, and
Yeah,
I remember these.
yeah,
Like I remember the Watergate trial. My mom, I mean, there was no soap operas; they were all cut off. So I mean, they
yeah,
just those trials were on ABC, NBC, CBS, 8 to 4 every day.
yeah.
So great
Um,
movie.
you go Walk the Line. If we're talking about musical, that like type movies. Walk the Line, La Bamba. Those are great. Mm, let's go. Let me see. You could go maybe a wartime movie. Imitation Game
Oh,
with
Cumberbatch.
Cumberbatch. I thought that was a
Yeah,
good one.
yeah, playing Alan Turing.
Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Great, great move. Saw that at the theater. That guy, dude, that guy is. Did you ever see? Do you ever watch his show, The Sherlock Holmes?
No, no. But he's
And it's got the Martin Freeman plays the doctor who we know from like, dude, those it's spellbinding. That's when I fell in love with this guy because
yeah,
he just is a great actor.
yeah, he
So
is.
phenomenal choice. I loved it.
Yeah,
Great,
I love
great.
that movie. That was a great one. What else? And kind of the ones I saw this past weekend, I thought those are great. I just love those type of movies. That's why I brought up the subject, and I was like, there's so many movies that you can choose from, and there's a ton that I'm forgetting. But the subject is so vast in terms of the amount of film
It
that you can
is, and it all
choose from.
depends on like all film and art and entertainment. How does it touch you emotionally? Couple
Yeah,
more. It's funny because
Social Network,
Social Network.
Wolf of
I'm
Wall
gonna
Street.
I'm gonna okay. I'm gonna take you back to a couple here.
Uh,
Um, Raging Bull. These are gonna be, and this will be
oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. There you go. I forgot. Yeah, there's another one. I
Jake
love Raging Bull.
LaMotta by
Yeah,
Scorsese.
loved.
Um,
I just put
Robert
that
De
one on all the
Niro,
time. Love that movie.
Pesci. The King's Speech with
Yeah, that's a
Colin
great
Firth,
one.
Jeffrey Rich about King George, who had
Yeah.
a speech impediment or he was a stutterer and he had to lead a nation during World War II. I
Hmm.
like a lot. I'm getting a lot of fight things, but
Did
Cinderella Man
I love that
about
one too.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah,
Zane Zellweger about Braddock.
yeah,
I mean, he goes from working, on the welfare line to regaining. Papillon. This is an
yeah.
old Steve McQueen, Dustin Hoffman film about a prisoner who escaped Devil's Island in the South America.
You
Chaplin with
Chaplin. You could do
Robert
Gandhi
Downey
with.
Jr.
You,
Gandhi, and then
how,
Lenny
how,
Bruce.
how about behind the candelabra with Michael Douglas and
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Liberace.
By the way, my mom had those albums, so I
uh,
grew up with Liberace
yeah,
also. There's a million to pick from, and I think the fine line is it real or is it a caricature?
yeah, yeah,
And I think sometimes we lean more toward the caricature or the ideal that we think of. And I like when we see, talking about space earlier that we were talking about, some of my favorite movies would be Apollo 13
love that one.
about Jim Lovell.
Yeah,
I met Jim Lovell at his restaurant in Schaumburg, Illinois.
yeah,
And I heard him speak one time. Hidden Figures,
yeah,
about the three African American rocket scientists.
yeah,
Not only do I love those three actresses, it deals with space. And
yeah,
then October Sky, the
yeah.
movie with
Jake
Jake
Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal. Yes,
Yeah,
and dealing with the rocket scientist from
yeah,
the small town. His dad is Chris Cooper, who I
yeah.
love.
I love Chris Cooper, man.
So
I love him.
my wife worked on a film with him. She just did background
Yeah.
and said that he was just really one of the nicest and just cool guys. And talking about Chris Cooper, American Beauty, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
He plays a
Breach.
character.
Did you watch the
Oh
one
yeah,
Breach? I
yeah.
love that. I love him in Breach.
He's just, and even the
Another biopic, kind of, I guess.
what's those
Breach.
movies?
Black Hawk Down. I watched Breach and Black Hawk Down, and I forgot that he was in Black Hawk Down. He makes an appearance in
Oh
that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I
Oh,
remember.
The Patriot. He was great in The Patriot with Mel Gibson. I think he
And
played his
Keith
like.
Ledger
Yeah.
was in that movie too.
Yeah. That's a great movie.
Great movies. All there's a man. One
So
thing we've
many.
got in life is that we've got great movies.
Yeah. And a lot of movies, a lot of great movies are either based on real people or real events or a combination of both. And I also sometimes I like I like watching a movie and then finding out afterwards in the credits that it was either is based off somebody or an actual event, or they give you some, and I didn't know it beforehand. Those are always great. Sports movies, you go Invincible with Mark Wahlberg. That's a great one.
No, if I'm gonna go sports movies,
Rudy, you go Rudy.
well, Rudy, yeah, because
Yeah,
of Notre Dame, I had to
yeah.
watch it. But
Miracle on
I would
Ice.
say Hoosiers,
Hoosiers. Yeah,
probably my favorite movie because of Gene Hackman,
yeah,
about the story of the small Indiana high school that ended up going to the state championship.
yeah.
Um,
A lot of sports movies are really good in terms of like you know
yeah,
pertaining to
I
real
can't
life.
think of can't think of too many that I've really watched offhand. I mean, I've obviously the boxer ones
Yeah.
I find fascinating.
The Fighter, another Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, and
Hands of
Christian Bell
Stone.
won the
Did you watch
Oscar
Hands of
for that.
Stone?
No, but I watched his fights.
Yeah, that's a good one. Hands of Stone's pretty good.
Hands of
Uh,
Stone, is that the one with De
Roberto
Niro as
Duran.
the coach, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, I never saw it, so if it's a recommendation, I'll check it out. I mean, I'm familiar with the boxer. I mean,
It's not gonna blow your mind in terms of, it's not a, I wouldn't say it's an Oscar winning movie, but it's a pretty it's interesting, it's funny, it's good. It has a the singer Usher.
oh
He,
yeah.
he plays Sugar Ray Leonard.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he made, and it shows a little bit of their back and forth, and I thought that was a good casting. I thought, and the way he portrayed him, and
I'll
then
have to check it out then. I'm not familiar with it. I'm familiar with the film, but I haven't watched it.
or even
Yeah.
those movies. What do you think about these movies? And a lot of this happens with a lot of horror movies, is where they will base a character off of a series, a few characters. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like Texas Chainsaw is based off of some certain people, Ed Gein and all that.
Mhm.
You go with even some war movies like War Dogs is based off a couple of people, and then you have or Lord of War with Nicolas Cage, where he's the gun
Jared
runner.
Leto. Hmm.
Yeah. Where it's not necessarily based off one person, but it's a couple of people that they kind of meld the story about, and
And then
it
that's
was,
not a. Then I wouldn't consider that a
yeah,
biographical film.
yeah. There's those films. I wouldn't. Yeah,
Most biographical films that we would put on record would be ones that came from a best-selling novel.
yeah,
Mostly.
yeah,
I mean, I would
yeah,
lean that way. But I mean, like you said, how many percent of our movies are biographical in some way? I mean, most people hear a story, they morph the story, um,
no,
so um, I like to know what people are doing, but I care more about their conflict
yeah.
physically over than spiritually or emotionally sometimes. Um, I would
And I
have
like
to
to,
say,
I like to see how people get to where they are. I like to
yeah,
know
I
that.
mean,
I like to know that
the
story. I like to
journey
know
is
the journey,
everything.
and that's why I like this weekend I was watching a bunch of those type of movies, Ford versus Ferrari and Rocket Man, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Social Network, and all these. I like to see where people, how they got to be where they where they got to be, or how things ended up that way. If I don't know. I just I like to learn about the journey, and that's why when I watch some of these movies, I like for them to be as accurate as possible, knowing that they're going to take certain liberties with the storytelling. But I
If
don't.
it doesn't take away from the integrity of the film or the morality of the character, then it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah,
Obviously, the majority of people's life is mundane, even with the greats, so you got to have the fill-ins,
yeah,
or it doesn't
yeah,
really work, or it doesn't build the conflict, or whatever you want.
yeah,
Um, but it's interesting, and even going back to the Last Dance and all these other things, even with Bohemian Rhapsody and Elton John.
yeah,
If you want to be great, you're going to have to suffer, or you will not be heard.
yeah,
Nobody gets a free ride to greatness.
yeah,
It's all hard work. I mean, Eddie Van Halen played guitar 8 hours a day in
yeah,
his basement and in his room. So and it all goes back. I mean, the hero's journey. This is going back to Greece. This
Yeah.
is Plato and Homer, and it's all about, we want to see people overcome. We want
Yeah.
to see people be successful. That's why you have the big climax 75 minutes into your movie, no matter what.
Yeah.
And that'll be adjusted to the length of your movie. So, but it's interesting, and those were two good picks. My wife, who's obviously judgment I value huge, she would also lean more toward Rocket Man as being a more creative, very theatrical.
Yeah.
And
Which I liked. I appreciate it.
I thought it was brilliant, and for him to sit in the suit and talk, and when you look at it's interesting. Both those artists. Do we have theatrical artists like that today in music?
There's very few.
I mean,
Yeah,
this
you
is
go to
like
Lady
Broadway
Gaga.
shows. Well, yes, female, but not male.
Not male.
And when you think back to
Marilyn
the
Manson.
70s and 80s,
I'm a Marilyn Manson fan.
is done now.
Kind of.
He was huge.
No, he's not. Well, I think rock in general has taken a back seat to rap and hip hop and pop. Even pop's taken a little bit of a backseat, but rock, its last kind of like heyday was 2000s. I would say it's the last. I say with Manson, which I'm a big Manson fan. I think he's putting out an album soon. I've seen him recently a couple times in concert. The theatrics that he used to do, he doesn't really do anymore. It's more of now just a stripped down version of what he used to do. But the one rock star who still kind of does the theatrics, I would say like a Rob Zombie. Have you seen him live?
No, I haven't.
No,
But,
you have screens showing like images and everything's neon, and you have like creatures and fireworks and pyrotechnics. Metallica does a pretty good job of
I grew up in the era.
Yeah.
Think about the rock bands. I never saw Queen. I never saw Elton John. There were no opportunities there.
But I'm just trying to think of like male performers that are doing that kind of level of theatrics in their performances. And and if we're talking about modern rap or hip hop or something like that, I could say like I'm sure I don't know if you're aware of anybody like that, but it's like a Travis Scott is the only person that comes to my mind that puts on those type of big elaborate things.
No, I know who he is. Isn't he with the Kardashians?
Yeah. Now, see, yeah, there you go.
Well, I watched the Kardashians this morning because I got to know what's going on. Am I dressing properly? I want to know what Kim has to say.
Yeah.
So now that Kendall has more money, I'm more looking at her more, or Kylie.
I've seen her in person. I've seen it might have been Kendall actually. The more model one out of the two younger sisters. At first, I was like, I didn't take her seriously as a model. I wasn't like, she's just like a pretty girl, maybe, you know what I mean? But I've seen her in person. I saw her at Dave & Buster's for a birthday party one time, and she was there. And some of the Dave & Buster's security guys were like following her around to keep her, people away from her. I guess I don't know. Nobody was really going towards her, but very tall.
Oh yeah,
6 foot, easy. I mean, just all legs, and then
the other one had all the plastic surgery.
Yeah,
right?
The other one had the plastic surgery, and I think she's a little bit on the shorter side. But the other one, I was like, okay, I get it, I see it. Yeah, but yeah, the Kardashian talk for this episode. So
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, man, good talking with you.
Yeah, good talking with you. I know you got to get going. It's been a good show. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening.
And tomorrow we'll put up our list of what we have chosen and what we feel like you should look at. And so we're dealing with biographer. If you have any suggestions, you can always email us or contact us or put it on our Facebook, or not Facebook, whatever we have, Instagram.
Comment sections of the Instagram.
Have a good day, Twitter. And it's good seeing you. Glad everybody's healthy. Look forward to talking next week, and have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Take care.